Welcome to Coffee and Conversation with the Artists. This is a monthly series of artist talks started by the Sterling Society in 2007. Sterling Society is an auxiliary membership organization that supports DFAC. And my name is Diane Van Dusen. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a Sterling Society member and volunteered to be this year's Coffee and Conversation Program Coordinator. Little did I know at the time that I did that it was going to be done via Zoom, something I had to learn how to do. But it's worked out really well and we've had great participation. And thanks to the wonders of technology and the generous donation from Diane Wheatley Gelati, she's the sponsor, and her donation paid for our Zoom account. So we've been able to keep the program going alive virtually. Well, we look forward to welcoming y'all back to the Art Center to enjoy actual coffee and face-to-face interactions with our artists and art lovers. We appreciate your continued support of the artists. Sarah Kessinger, Sterling Society President, is here to share some information before I introduce today's speaker. So Sarah, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Diane, and thank you. She did have to go to Google and learn a whole lot about Zoom. I'll tell you, it was amazing what she had to do, but we all had to learn a lot of things. But we're really happy that you're all here, and I'm looking forward to a few more coming in. And just want to let you know, I said this the last time, but didn't have the true date. The Sterling Society will not be having a Mother's Day tea this year. We decided we would push it to October. And so it will be now in October, and it will not be Mother's Day because Mother's Day is not in October. We had to come to that realization. And so we will have it in October, and we're going to call it a Sterling High Tea. And at this point, we will be at the Bel Air Country Club. So it should be really a very festive, and it will be an in-person, very socially distant, and all the good things that people have to do these days. One thing that I would like to let you know is that anything that the Sterling Society, any funds that we raise, do go directly to the to DFAC, and we've just made some donations, just done a $5,000 sponsorship towards the garden party, and we are also going to make a $10,000 donation towards the Palm Cafe. Palm Cafe needs a lot of things, and a lot of pots and pans and dishes and all those good things that you need to have a restaurant. So we're doing that. So Diane Wheatley, thank you so much for being here. Diane has been a great sponsor, and we all thank her. If you know her, please tell her hello and thank you for doing this for us. She came to us by way of doing the very first bylaws in 2004 or 5, one or the other. I'm not sure which one the first one was done, but she's been very instrumental in doing many things with DFAC, not the least of which being president of the board of directors. So thank you all, Diane. Thank you everybody for being here, and I will let you go, Diane.
Okay, well, this is going to be a little different than our past presentations. Bryan is going to talk, and he is totally open to questions throughout his talk. So even though I ask people to stay muted while the speaker is talking, you're welcome to use the little raise your hand if you want to ask a question throughout the talk. And or you can use the chat button, which is what we've done in the past. So I'll be monitoring the chat button. So if you do have questions that you want to just type in there, we'll make sure there's an opportunity for you to present those. So having said that, Bryan Voliton is the owner of Beach in Maine, and he describes himself as a creative entrepreneur whose passion is helping other creatives succeed. Through many outlets like the Unmanageables podcast, live morning meditations on Facebook, and Tuning In, a subscription of curated content, Bryan uses his wide range of skills to prepare people to be visionaries, storytellers, and courageous action takers. So please welcome Bryan and enjoy his talk about creative resilience, and learn how he went from a successful career in graphic design, where he partnered with businesses and brands, to establishing his own company. And I'd like you to sort of to think of today's presentation as an opportunity for you to have a little mini consult with Bryan. He does hold consultations with clients, but you have the opportunity through presenting your questions to have your own little personal consultation today. So having said that, Bryan, welcome, and the stage is yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much. As they have already stated, my name is Bryan Voliton. And on top of all the other things that Diane so beautifully laid out with regard to bio, I am a creative coach and a accountability guide as well. So what that means is I just help creatives get unstuck by bettering their mental, physical, and creative habits. And we use all those things to kind of take action towards your unique purpose, right? So, taking all that into account, I came up with the idea for creative resilience because, as you know, if you are artists and or creatives or yourselves, it takes a lot to get to this point, and it takes a lot to navigate the waters of being a creative. We go through a lot, and so I was like, why not just kind of dig into that a little bit deeper and try to and have a conversation with you guys about what creative resilience may mean to you. So I had a couple of points that I wanted to just kind of stand out really quickly, and then jump into a little bit of bio about myself, and then open the floor up and we can just have a conversation and just a back and forth about what it means to be creative. So if I take the topic creative resilience, I kind of outlined there's three things that I think just personally from my own experience that it takes to kind of understand or unpack what creative resilience is. And the first thing in my mission really in life is to convince all people that they are creative and artists, thinking people. So if we can get on board with that, then we're already kind of on our way. The second thing is there's no one direct path to being a creative. We're going to be presented in all different shapes and forms, from visual arts to performing arts. Some of us are writers, some of us are singers, musicians, and so on and so forth. But however you express yourself and sit down at any point in time to invent something or manifest something that doesn't exist already, you are a creative, whether or not you acknowledge yourself as that right now. And then the third and final thing is the ability or the willingness for you to be able to surrender yourself into being a creative and just understand that it is a process, right? So, part of my journey getting here, I grew up in Clearwater and I grew up as an artist. One of the only ones in my family, though I have a lot of creative people in my family, but the only one that consciously pursued any creative outlet at the time as a child. So I was that kid in the corner, and everyone understood me as the guy that knew how to draw and cut paper and just pick up things off the ground and make new things out of them. So that was pretty much what my childhood looked like. But I was always minded as well. I always kind of knew that I didn't really want to work for people, even though I ended up having to get jobs and working for people. I didn't really enjoy the idea of what is a dream job, because my dream job was always going to be just communicating with people and figuring out ways to keep us all engaged in our creative spirit, right? So I didn't really understand how to articulate that at the time, but it's always been a point of mine to make for my career moving forward. So as I got through my kind of early childhood, I got into college, and my college career took me a little bit away from art as a whole because I didn't really understand how it was going to fit into my life. I didn't understand how I was going to use art to support myself and to sustain myself like many of us do. So many of us kind of take different paths in our lives because we don't understand how art is going to actually sustain. But I knew I wanted to stay close to an area where I was going to be able to still use those same skill sets in which to help me articulate my expression, right? So I went into graphic design. I moved to Atlanta in the year 2000, and started my graphic design career there. And what that taught me was the understanding of how to practice, because there was long, grueling hours of having to do hand illustrations and hand lettering, and we were still in the point where the computer was still fairly new at this point with regard to how we were going to use it outside of school. So a lot of my teachers, they really kept us on this pathway of really traditional work. So we everything we did was hand illustrated. So we did an advertisement for a company that we made up for school. We had to draw the type. We had to illustrate all of the people in those things, all of everything that exists. We had to either draw it or find it, copy it, paste it, cut it out. Just really old school. So we understood how to connect to the work that we were doing. But I always wanted to make sure that I didn't lose my artistic ability. So I always made sure that some of my doodles would go into my work. I always made sure that bits and pieces of my thought process will go into my work. So even though I was working and having to produce things for my teachers at the time because I was in school to fulfill the brief on that project, I always wanted to make sure that pieces of my identity were kind of in there as well. So I guess I kind of innately knew just I didn't want to let go of being an artist as a whole. But then as my career progressed, I got out of school, immediately got my ex-wife pregnant. Now I have two daughters now. I got pregnant right out of school and had to actually grow up like really quickly, right? So that put me into that position of now I have to get this job. And I don't even know if I want this job. So I just made a pact with her. Whoever gets the job first, that's where the other person will move. And then we'll start our lives and continue on from there. And lo and behold, she got a job in Las Vegas. And that's where my design career started, was in Las Vegas. So learned a lot, got thrown right into the water. There was no entry level experience at that time because I had come from a school where we were really polished. So they thought that we already knew what to do when we jumped into the business world. So learning how to communicate with clients as an artist, I thought was really important because that's the thing that I hadn't done before. And then learning how to have a thick skin and understand that you're going to produce things for people that you're going to spend hours and hours and hours on a thing, and then the client's going to look at it and tell you that it's not really their jam, and it might just have to go in the trash, right? Or you put it on the shelf for later. So there were things that advertising taught me that made me really resilient with regard to now becoming the artist that I want to be, or the creative that I want to be. So as I moved throughout my career as an art director and a designer over the next decade or so, because I left here in 2000 and I got back in 2010. So over that full decade, I just learned really well that the advertising part of me being an artist was just preparing me for this space right now. It built the resilience around me. It allowed me to understand that I am going to have days where I understood the client spot on, and I'm able to articulate myself the way I want to. And then I'm going to have days where the client's going to hate everything I've done, and I have to be good with that. I have to understand how to be good with that. But then there was other experiences that I learned as well, like being in boardrooms with the CEOs of big companies as they're making decisions. Because that's not even in the advertising world, a lot of the times as creatives, you're not allowed into the big meetings that actually where decisions get made. So being fortunate enough to be able to perform in that space and being trusted to be in that space as a creative taught me that that was one deficit a lot of artists didn't have. And this is the reason why it started to spark me wanting to move back to Florida and just get back connected with my family and start working one-on-one with artists, because I was finding that we a lot of the times didn't know how to show up in these places where decisions were being made. And a lot of the times when we're called into the rooms, decisions is already made for us and we've had no input. And now we're just having to perform or create something based off of other people's ideas or the countless hours of time put into other people have put into, right? So I was like, I don't really like that scenario. I want to be able to take all this experience and break it down and help artists understand how to be able to go into these places and do the same thing. But I had to realize there were some deficits from my perspective as well. Once the kids came, life started to slow down, the physical health started to slow down. You just worked just to pay the bills. That was my experience. And then you realize that you're further and further away from being able to understand how to help. So I had to take myself through this transition of getting my body moving again because it felt better. And when my body feels good, then my mind feels good. And connecting those two things together put me in this state of I can create all day long. I have all the ideas whenever I need to because I'm never in a space where I'm too tired or my mind's too jumbled. And even when I get to those places, I have learned the tools to be able to push myself through that space, right? So fast forward to right now, today, the way I work with my clients is really intimate, and we spend a lot of time together, whether it be on Zoom or for the ones who have been vaccinated or are more comfortable getting out of their houses. We meet up in different locations, especially if you're local. And what I do is just walk them through a process that allows them to rethink their whole body as a creative. So from a physical space to a mental space, and then what that looks like with regard to these things are in control of our creativity and artistry just as much as just our minds are. So that is pretty much how I work with either individuals or small groups and organizations. Is I come in and help them unravel and pull back all the layers of the person that they are right now, help them set some goals or build some projects that we can kind of actually start working towards because we need some kind of a purpose, right? And then just allow them that space to be able to make some mistakes without any judgment and understand how to just create habits that get you out of bed in the morning or at whatever time of the day you like to be up, and then start knocking out the things that are important to you. I think you're on mute. You're still on mute.
Okay, now I am not. I have a question.
Yeah.
The live morning meditations,
Hmm.
in your own personal development, was meditation a key that got you on the path that you're on? I mean, I know meditation is a popular thing these days, but I'm curious, is that one of the key things?
It played a big role. So a real quick point about meditation is generally the meaning of meditation. We think it is sitting on the floor with your legs crossed and you're trying to zone out for an extended period of time. But just the basic understanding of meditation is us being able to observe ourselves, right, in the space that we're in right now. So we can actually meditate in 4 different postures, whether that be laying down, sitting down, standing up, or walking, right? And as human beings, we're probably always in one of those positions, right? So
Mhm.
meditation isn't a thing that you have to do at a certain point of the day. You can do it all day long because there's little points in the day where you can just be aware enough to just take a break for yourself, observe yourself, and be able to respond appropriately. So how it played this role in my life, I've meditated before in the past, and I don't think I understood it from that same perspective I just told you about just now. So for me, it was sitting down and forcing myself to figure out how to sit down for 20 minutes or 30 minutes and failing tremendously, whether it be from physical pain because my hips hurt or back pain because my back hurts, and just like torturing myself through this process. But what I started last June because of the pandemic, and I was like, I want to show up, but everyone's going crazy, and I don't really know what to do to kind of help my people and the ones around me settle down, because at this point, no one's working on anything, right? Because everyone's trying to figure out like how not to die or whatever the case may be, and or how not to be afraid or anxious or depressed about the situation we found ourselves in. So the idea was given to me just to sit down and meditate about it. And I started my own practice here in this room. And as you'll see, if you scroll through my Facebook page, my personal Facebook page, for the last 8 months, that's what I did Monday through Friday. And then eventually I turned on my camera phone. I just sat it here in front of me, 6:30 in the morning. From 6:30 to 7:30, I was available for anybody who wanted to come into that space and meditate. And we walked through just some seated yoga positions just to get us kind of confident or really sturdy in our seated position. Then we move into some Qigong movements where we just kind of slowly observe the mind and what the body is doing, because anytime you move the mind, the body has to move, and any time you observe the body, the mind has to follow as well. So just simple movements that kind of mimic a Tai Chi type of style just helps us kind of settle back into the fact that we're about to sit for an extended period of time. Then I just open the floor up for about 20 minutes, and it's not guided meditation. We sit for about 20 minutes just quietly, and you just get to observe everything that's going on around you. In this space, I usually have a fan on so I can feel the cool air pushing down. Usually in the morning, there's birds chirping, so I get to hear what's going on outside. The refrigerator kicks on and starts making ice. So you just get to experience all of these things that are happening and understand your role in that position. And then I wrap up that meditation with a little bit of discussion if people have questions. So it's really helped. Overall, it has helped me with my own habit forming and being able to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, get my teeth brushed, shower, all these things, and get ready by journal every day, sit down by 6:30, and then invite people into this space.
I know there's a few more people that are signed on now from when we started the talk. So just to bring you up to date, this is going to be much more of an open forum. So if you have questions for Bryan, you can either use the little hand icon or just go ahead and unmute yourself and ask the question. Kind of view it as a little mini personal consultation with the types of things Bryan does in his own business. So feel free to raise any other questions. I don't have any further ones, but I hope our audience does.
I have questions though.
Okay, by all means.
So how many, if by a show of hands, if you're willing, at this point as creatives, as artists or not, do you have any daily practice or a daily routine that gets you set on your day and knock some things out before you have to deal with everybody else in the room or inside of your house?
I don't know if we have shy people in here right now.
I see some hands raised. If you're willing to, if you give us a little insight on what that practice looks like or what your routine looks like, that'd be awesome.
I can speak to that. This is Allison. Can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
Hi, Bryan. Thanks for talking to us. This is my first time coming to one of these. I have a very similar path as you. I'm from Florida originally. I went to college for advertising here, and then I back in the day of, when the graphic design programs were starting to come up, I went to school in Atlanta. Then I moved to New York, and right now I'm between New York and Florida. I have my own design studio, Best, that I run. And I consider myself an artist as well as obviously a business owner now, and really identified with a lot of the things that you were talking about working with clients, and also having a personal practice that enables you to remain connected to your artist self and really have that work-life integration versus a work-life balance or separation. And that's something that I'm continuously trying to work on. So to speak to your question, I get up at 6:45 and I do 15 minutes of yoga and then a 5 to 10 minute meditation. And I also separately, or I guess not separately, but at another point of the day, I'm focusing a lot on the moon lunations and how my body feels during those, and kind of working off of that type of calendar versus a Gregorian calendar. I'm interested in that, but I guess a question, and I'm always working to kind of, enhance that process, but a question that I had for you that relates to this is, speaking to things, work that I do for clients or for other people, for money, and then also my own keeping connected to that kind of artist process. A lot of times, especially having my own business, I get burnout, or I start to feel that disconnect between my artist self, or I start to feel out of flow. And in addition to kind of the meditation that you were speaking of, which I'm really interested in, what are some other ways that you kind of take a break during the day or reconnect, to kind of prevent or manage that burnout feeling, when, maybe often I can't take a chunk of time off to like totally separate myself from the business. What are some other ways? I try to get out into nature, but sometimes it just kind of gets overwhelming. And I'm wondering if you have any tips, or you could speak a little bit to what's helped you kind of come back to yourself, which it sounds like you've continuously done over your life. And I'm really trying to do that as well.
Absolutely. So speaking of burnout, when I get to that point where I feel like I'm getting burnt out over anything, really, I realize that usually burnt out when I'm doing something that I don't want to be doing. Right? A lot of the times when I'm burnt out, because when you love something, like, you don't get burnt out doing it, right? And so I usually just kind of take a breath, right? The normal things. But then if you can't take that time to just get away for an extended period of time, like get into nature because you actually have work to do, doing some small movements just in your house, you have a beautiful space behind you, just being able to just stand up, get the body moving in that space just for about 5 or 10 minutes will probably help. Because once your mind is out in deep space, the quickest way to get it back in is to draw that energy back into you by just moving the body, right? So you have a beautiful space behind you. I would just stand up, and you can either get back into some more yoga, or we can, I can show you, if you like right now, a couple of just Qigong techniques that you can do while you're on the phone talking to your client. They can't really see you maybe, and you're just walking around the space and you just need to clear your head. So would you like to just walk through a couple of those together?
Yeah. Yeah, I've been actually really interested in Qigong, but I don't know that much about it.
Okay. Yeah, so I've been learning, right? There's still so much to learn, and there's like thousands of different ways to do it, and people may have different opinions on if it's right or wrong, or which movements you should do one way or the other. But I do these consistently, and these are what were taught to me with regard to just observing yourself in the space now, because that's probably the biggest point. Is when you get to that point when you're burnt out, you're a lot of the times you're just out of your mind, right? Like, you're not in the space where you want to be, and your body's telling you, hey, do something else, right? Or we're going to lay down and go to sleep or get sick, or wherever the case may be, right? So if you all are able to, we're just going to sit back in our chair, And we'll walk through these. We'll just do it 3 times each. We're gonna do 4 moves, 3 times each, and we'll just see how it goes from that point. So the first thing we're gonna do, we're just gonna take our hands. We're gonna make a ball right in front of us, right? And then as we inhale, your eyes open or close if you want. You inhale, and the hands expand. I have my hands a little high just so you can see. Exhale, the hands contract. Let's repeat that twice more. And one more. Now we're just going to take the hands, we're going to turn the palms facing upwards. We're going to inhale, hands up. Exhale, hands down. Put a little tension between your forefinger and your thumb, just a little bit. Inhale, hands up. Exhale, hands down. And one more time. Now, as we get to the bottom of this exhale, we're just going to connect our fingertips together like so. We're going to inhale, hands up towards our head. We're going to exhale out in front of us, down and around. Just going to make a big circle out in front of us. And we're going to repeat that 2 more times. And then we're just going to push the hands right out in front of us in this triangle shape. We're going to extend them out, down, behind us. We're going to scoop like we're doing the breaststroke, right? So just out in front of us, scoop behind. Let's just do one more for good measure. Making sure we breathe through the whole process. And then we're just going to hold the hands right out in front of us. Now we're going to take 1 deep breath in. As we exhale, we're going to invert the hands. We're going to put the thumbs just touching the belly button. And let's just take 2 more breaths here. And that's that whole sequence. You can extend that as many times as you need to, or I generally recommend, if you can't remember or you just need to get something to get your body back aligned really quickly, just pick one of those movements and just, you can walk around your room and just do this. And if there's other people in your house, they may think you're weird, they may think you're crazy, but they're crazy for not doing it, right? So hopefully, if you just in that short amount of time, you can feel how it just brings you back into, this is where I need to be right now. And now I can make a decision on being burnt out. Now I can make a decision on what's the next best thing for me to do to manage that stress level, right? Instead of trying to manage it from trying to mitigate all the chaotic things that are happening, push them away, bring the body back in, bring the mind back in, and then make the decisions from there.
Thank you. I like that. It's like working with the energy as something that you can control when other things maybe seem like out of your control. That's very helpful.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. Are there any other questions? Yes, Diane.
I keep forgetting to unmute. I just wanted to let you know that Mason Gearing had to leave, but she put in the chat box a thank you to you and to the rest of the folks that are still participating. Please
walk out the door right now.
Yeah. Okay.
We're in the same house.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. Well, then that chat was unnecessary, I guess. Anyhow, to other people online here, I'm curious. What forms of art that the attendees, are you, visual artists, painters, musicians? And if you have specific questions related to your art and how to maybe unblock yourself. Please feel free to pose those questions to Bryan.
A little bit of background, more background, and while you're getting ready. If you have a question, Colin, go for it. Colin.
Hi there.
Hey, hey.
Can you hear? Oh, I'm on. Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate being here. I'm a photographer that is new to the area. I just happened to see the post and was intrigued. So I really appreciate it. It was great to be able to do this today. I definitely need stress relievers right now. Being in a new area, trying to start your business during COVID has been very stressful, to say the least. But yeah, so I just wanted to thank you, introduce myself, and that's pretty much it.
You're welcome. Are you a part of, or have you sought out any photography clubs or groups yet?
I have. There's a couple of hobbyist groups that I found. I started going to a couple of outdoor events, but I found that I was starting to go towards the hobbyist side and not the business side.
Gotcha.
So I just shifted gears, and I've just been trying to learn about marketing. Where I lived before in North Carolina, we had a commercial property that I actually leased my own space. So I had a studio and all that. I don't have that here. So I'm having to learn marketing way more on a different level than what I had before, because we had a lot of walking traffic that would just stop into the studio, and it was phenomenal. But so I'm just learning a lot now about social media, the artist community, like you said about the photography groups, which ones are more hobbyists, which ones are meeting and doing it. Some of them are more for profit, I feel, with some classes. So yeah, I'm still searching for a good group.
Okay. Well, there is a group over in Tampa run by a friend of mine. His name is Robert Rostick.
Okay.
And they're the Tampa Bay Camera Club.
Tampa Bay Camera Club. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of them. I'm wondering if that's one, but I'll write it down just in case. Mm-hmm. And what was his name again? I'm sorry.
Robert, Robert, Rostick, Rostick.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. What's your path from a marketing perspective?
I'm sorry?
What are you learning from a marketing perspective?
Instagram is huge and scary. I'm trying to have more. I was actually in a military community. Okay. So a lot of the work that I was able to do, I couldn't put it on social media. It's just part of a portfolio that I can't share. So I'm trying to just find models, get out there, get some fresh new material, put a lot on social media. That's pretty much it. I'm at the beginning of marketing. Instagram has been my new focus at this point.
That's good. It's the easiest route to take, especially with regard to being a photographer. And the more you can share what you're learning along the way will be beneficial for other photographers, and it will kind of graduate you a little quicker with regard to the marketing aspect, because you'll just be learning how to pull apart the things that you already know. Mm-hmm. And the more that you're putting it online to as almost like a teacher for other people, mm-hmm. the quicker you'll learn through that process as well.
Okay, interesting. Mm-hmm. I do follow an education site that's worldwide online, and I've been doing that for a couple of years. They have a lot of really good material to dive into. I just find that I'm more on the slow learner side. So for me, technology, Instagram, Facebook, the triangle, between emails, Instagram, Facebook, how you have to keep posting to everything. And it just gets super overwhelming, everything at once. But I recently did start just doing behind the scenes video, because I also print my work. So I'm doing printing videos behind the scenes. What's a session look like for a senior, let's say. And I've been doing that, and I find that there's been an uptick. As soon as I start putting my printer on and printing my photos, it's one of the biggest hits on social media. Not that it's a lot, but it's the biggest hit for me.
Do you know
And I
why?
think that you're right about that. About
It's because people like to see process, and people like to understand. They're, everyone who's watching you is trying to understand how they can do the same thing because they're just as afraid to do it as you are, right? So it's in your best interest to just be brave enough to do it and not really judge it too much, because other people are, they're waiting because they're in the same exact spot you're in, right?
Mhm.
And they're looking for people same age, that look like them, that are performing in these spaces where they're not sure that they can be in yet for
I
whatever
see.
reason, right? So
Interesting.
that's how we that's how we start to build community around ourselves as artists. Is just understanding that with these tools, and you can pick one, by the way, you don't have to use them all. Right? Like you could pick your favorite thing to do and just put all of your time and attention into Instagram if that's what you need to just kind of slowly be able to be consistent in that space. Just show up in Instagram and just be really consistent there, and don't worry about having to Instagram, Facebook, whatever the case may be. Like you can focus on one and just get really good at showing up in that space, and it'll be beneficial for everyone involved.
My anxiety level has gone down now that I have honed in on the Instagram and let some of the others go. It's
Yeah.
been a little bit better.
Yeah. You have to understand that it's depending on you to use it, so you get to decide when you use it.
True.
Right.
Well, nice to meet you all, and thank you. I'm
Yeah.
not sure if anybody else has anything.
Well, yes, Brian, I was looking at the chat and it looks like we have a question from Leslie Ikowitz. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. You're welcome to unmute yourself, Leslie, if you want to visually
Sure.
pose your question.
Yes. Hi. And yes,
Okay.
you nailed the pronunciation of my last name. So thank you. Hi, Brian. Thanks for joining us and being so generous and candid with your talk today and treating it like a mini consultation. Your timing is impeccable because this serial creative is wondering what advice you might have for those of us who are avoiding our art. Even though we want to do it, we're avoiding, and when we don't want it, we're avoiding any small, like digestible bits and pieces that you might have to offer in that realm.
Yeah, so I've had that same problem, right? I've done it myself. We all have. And the thing you have to come to terms with is that you have to get over the fact that it's going to be judged. And that's the biggest thing, is that you stop doing it because you realize people have to judge it once you put it out, right? So the best way for it not to be judged is I just won't work on it, right? And then no one can judge it. And but then you start to feel miserable again that you're not actually creating, right? So it just goes back to this, taking it little by little and not making it a thing that has to put you in this mindset of, if I don't create, then my world's going to end. If I do create, then people are going to judge me. You're just doing it because that's who you are as a whole. So just take it little by little. And what I usually do is try to form habits around everything, even being an artist. And a lot of artists, like, I do art when I feel in the mood to do it, but I'm like,
But what
you should,
about the other times?
right. You should just do it anyway, right? Because what is going to be the downfall if you do something and you don't complete it? You still got in there, you still work through some ideas. So it's kind of like making a mini project for yourself and saying, hey, what do I want to create over the next 2 weeks? And can I break it down into such little pieces that it doesn't seem so overwhelming of a thing to have to do, to have to complete? So if I take 2 weeks from now and I say I want to have a project done, it's going to be a little tiny project, right? I just want to fill 4 pages in my sketchbook, whatever the case may be. How can I show up every day? What's the minimum that I can show up every day for 2 weeks until that project is completed? And usually when you do the minimum, you get the rest for free,
Uh-huh.
right? So if you show up for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes to do some form of artwork and then you stop at that at that minimum mark, you still get the work that you've done for free. You get the muscle memory for free. You get that relaxation of, this is really what I like to be doing and this is what I would rather be doing, right? Versus all the other things that I need to be doing or I'm supposed to be doing, right? Because there's that other side as well. We can take very easily our chores, our jobs, our family, and they are distractions, right? People are distractions, our jobs are distractions. However, we will allow them to be more of a distraction when we feel like we're not worthy of the work that we want to create and we don't want to be judged for the work that we want to create. So then we'll allow all these things to overwhelmingly be distractions versus just things that we've created along the way. So make a project, break it down into the smallest little bits, and just do it
Do
every
it.
day until it's completed.
That's
I fall into,
helpful.
I fall into the same. Sometimes there's projects where I'm like, I don't want to do this, but it's for myself and I need to get it done, right?
For sure. And a lot of times it's for myself. And to your point, and I feel very blessed saying this out loud, I haven't experienced much difficulty with the idea of having my work judged as much as maybe having that voice in my head say, what's the point? What's the point of making this work? I'm making it because I love it and because I want to share it and I want to have a shared experience with other people. And COVID has been the antithesis of that. So I kind of get stuck in this storm of what's the point?
Yeah.
And I don't, and it's a terrible place to go. And it is doing a terrible thing in that it's stifling me from continuing
hmm
sometimes.
hmm And then and even just questioning what's the point is the judgment behind, right? Because it could be judgment on, why am I doing this when the world is falling down, or why am I doing this when other people are hurting, and why am I doing this when
Interesting.
there's bills to pay, or why am I doing, right? There's so many
I
reasons, but
I never would have framed judgment in the way that you just did. I'm compelled right now. Good job.
so the
But I
point.
see what you mean. Those are a different set of judgment circumstances, not will this person like my work? Will it get published? Will it this? Will it that? But what you're talking about is really significant and a message that I never uh, assimilated before. So I'm going to be thinking about that a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And just give yourself a break and just keep making it, and
Yeah,
it'll
man.
figure itself out in the end.
Give yourself a break. That's advice for everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Brian, I just put my little hand symbol up there. I'm
There you go.
posing a question on behalf of another person.
Okay.
And the question is, could you please provide your Facebook link to the online morning meditation if that's still happening?
Mhm.
So
So
you can
yes,
write this
I'll
down.
send a link in here as well.
Okay.
And I took a little break because I got to a point, literally just yesterday I was like, I kind of miss doing it. So I'm gonna start it back up because I like being able to have that space for people, and I'm already sitting here anyway, right? So it's not like it's taking so much time out of my day when I'm like already literally sitting on the floor right in the same room. So they'll continue. But my Facebook on Facebook is Bryan Voliton is my Facebook page. And I can get the rest of the link here later. I just don't want to move my screen and lose you guys.
What
So if
does
you
your
go to
hat
Facebook,
say?
say again.
What does your hat say?
A friend of mine bought it. It says personal advisory.
Nice.
So yeah, stay tuned on that because I'm actually about to start the meditations again. I think they're a beautiful way to start the day, and there's different things that we walk through with regard to just starting a gratitude practice on a daily basis. You'll be amazed if you wake up and you write down one thing that you're grateful for, and then try to write down 3 reasons why you're grateful for it, and then just close the book on it and go through your day, it changes your whole perspective because it kind of almost forces you to be attentive to something in this moment. And it can be literally anything, right? So it can be the wind blowing through the trees, it can be the leaves falling out of the trees, the birds making a mess in the front yard, whatever it is. It can literally be anything, and it just causes you to stop and put some attention towards something that is kind of like outside of yourself and how you're experiencing everything in that moment. So just a gratitude practice like changes your life. And it's so simple.
Bryan, I just turned on the multiple share screen, so I don't know if you can pull up your Facebook link so that the person who asked that question can see it. Again, I'm not the tech wizard here, but at least the screen sharing is on. So if that is something that you have on your desktop that you can open.
You want me to show the page or just put the link in?
Well, just put the link in or actually show the page. I'm not sure which.
Yeah, let me just.
That was a question from me, and I actually don't use Facebook. I'm more of an Instagram person, but would that be the best place to kind of receive updates from you? Or maybe I haven't Googled you yet, but do you have a newsletter update, or I just don't want to miss it? You know, I'd like
the best way is I'm working on newsletter stuff right now. I'm usually just more of a just in-person type of person.
Yeah.
Go to I am on Instagram as well at Bryan Voliton is.
Okay.
So I have I put a lot of I take that whole hour of that meditation time and I just crop it down to like that 5 minute of the discussion at the end. So
cool.
like gratitude that is inside of the Instagram space. So I have videos that I post inside of Instagram on Instagram TV.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. So let me grab those links for you guys.
And while you're doing that, I mean, I can at least verbally tell people how to reach you via the .com site. It's Bryan, spelled Bryan, at beach, BEACH, .main.com. Is that correct?
Yeah.
The dot's in there. Okay. Okay, folks. So the people who wanted to have that contact, it looks like he's pulled it up and shared it. The Facebook contact. And I just saw another chat pop in here. So let's see.
Rumor has it Bryan has a new Instagram follower.
Is that right? Fantastic. I love new Instagram followers. And you know what's so funny is Instagram for everyone, it's so hard now because a lot of us didn't start it on time, right? We got in late. So it's really hard to grow and it's really hard to feel like you're making any headway in Instagram because now you have the mathematics working against you. But it shouldn't deter you away from how you want to create. So I put Facebook, I put my actual email address, and then my web address is in there as well. And then the last thing I can put in here is my Instagram.
And where he's putting it in the chat. So all of you who are still online here, you can open up the chat button and you can see what Bryan has typed in there as far as contact information. Hopefully that answers those questions.
Yeah.
And I see we still have a number of people online, and if there are other questions, take the opportunity to pose them. Either use the little raise hand and your image will pop up, or just go ahead and unmute yourself and ask the question. So, Colleen, it looks like you're ready to ask another question.
It wasn't a question as much as just to talk about accountability, trying to do projects and things like that. How do you actually accomplish them if you're pushing them to the side? One thing, I am the ultimate procrastinator. I find that I have this artistic brain and I just keep veering off. and I'll just say, oh, look, it's this, it's that. And I just go all over the place. And it's really hard to reel myself back in because I just want to take my camera and get in my car and go and just take pictures. One of the things that I did recently, I joined another friend in North Carolina where we have each other as accountability partners. Yeah. She is a creative as well that also does it as a business. So she has to bring in money just like me. And so we're both the same. We have that same type of brain. So each day we'll start the day off where we'll text just a small list of things that we are to accomplish that day. And it has to be just a small target list that we know we can get done. And it's just one step further to that goal, that creative goal. And it's really worked for us. We've only been doing it for a little bit now, but even on the weekends, a lot of times we'll shoot a text and say, hey, I just happened to work on that. She's up late at night. My husband is deployed, so I'm up late at night. And a lot of times we're texting at 2 a.m. and we're saying, hey, did you see this? I got that done. And we're sharing the progress with each other. It's made a huge difference because it's sparked the creativity, even though we both consider ourselves artists and we have different eyes, absolutely different tastes when it comes to photography. But I can see her progress in her genre and I'm doing the same. So we're cheering each other on and we're critiquing as well if we have to, if we really feel that we have something valuable to say. It's made a huge difference for somebody like me that will constantly just put it off. I push it off all the time. The growth is difficult for me.
I 100% agree. And I have my own team of accountability partners that I work with myself for much of the same reasons, right? Because as much as I like to think that I have all my ducks in a row all the time, there's days where I'm like, not so much, right? So I have people as well. We, just like you, kudos to you for doing it every day because that's a really big feat. Me and my team, we meet once a week and we just talk about how that week went. And then we talk about life a little bit. And then we just go through a list of what are we going to do next week when we present to each other for the following week. So that is a really good way to hold yourself accountable and to start developing consistency. Because that's really the biggest part about this whole thing as an artist is understanding how to be there on a consistent basis and understanding how being there even when you don't want to be there sometimes, and being there when you feel like it's not pushing you forward sometimes. If this is the thing that you want to do, right, as an artist, you have to show up for it. And there's no other real exception unless you are taking time off to go learn and explore, and then that in itself is still feeding the beast, which is the creative, right? So even if you're not in a mode of production and you're actually producing, you can be in this mode of I'm going to go learn now, and I want to take all of my time now as an artist, as a creative, a writer, singer, whatever the case may be, sing better, or I'm going to shoot in a different style, or I'm going to shoot in areas where you may be more comfortable in studio versus outside, and vice versa, where some people are more comfortable outside than they are in the studio. So taking that time to just like push past some barriers when you're trying to figure out how to keep productive is important as well. So keep going.
I see we have another face on the screen, Allison Matheny, I believe. I can barely read the writing, but if you have a question to pose, feel free to unmute yourself. We're getting close to the time that we usually end the program, and I'll just let everybody that's still on here know these are recorded. So if you have a desire to go back and listen to some of the comments or rethink some of the things that have been talked about, you'll be able to find this on the Dunedin Fine Arts Center's website, which is dfac.org. And in the top banner, there's Twitter, Facebook, and there's also a YouTube icon. So you can click on that YouTube icon and be able to hear the presentation again and the comments that were made. And so pretty much that's all I've got to say before we wrap up. But if anybody does have additional questions, go ahead and pose them. If not, I will thank Bryan very much for his talk. It's been a very unique and personal experience, as if we're all kind of sitting in a room together, bouncing ideas off of each other. And there are a number of thank yous posted on the chat. And Bryan, I will send you a copy of what was on the chat, just so you know some of the names that were here. And I can also send you a copy of the list of the people that registered. And those who did register and didn't pose a question, I'm sure you might be hearing from some of them on a more one-to-one level. Maybe they just didn't want to share online in this format. But I want to thank everybody for attending. And from Allison Matheny to everyone, she's saying thank you. And Erin Young, thank you from her. So I will close down shortly, but again, Bryan, it was great meeting you online, and hopefully we'll meet face-to-face someday.
Thank you guys so much for having me and letting me present to you what it is that I do. But more importantly, what I do is actually for you guys. So I love doing that work. I very much so appreciate the fact that I get to actually interact with actual people and not just big companies. This is the work that I love to do. So for all of you who are still taking action out there and trying to get things done, even if you're working through pieces of the puzzle, I am here. So never hesitate to give me a shout. I love to do walk and talks and just figure things out. So that is where I am and who I am and why I'm here. And I thank you guys very much for letting me be here.